Emily stepped out of the luxury car. A sense of suspense filled her heart. The sun shone on the high-rise building with the familiar symbol of the family group, but today, she didn't want anyone to know that she was the chairman's daughter. She just wants to be recognized by her own ability. When she stepped into the main lobby of the company, Emily felt like all eyes were on her. She took a deep breath, trying to dispel the surging anxiety. Although she was mentally prepared for the difficulties ahead, she still couldn't help but feel uneasy. She said to herself, "I have to prove that I'm not just a young lady." When she arrived at the registration counter, she met Lena, the head of the Human Resources Administration Department. Lena looked at Emily from top to bottom, her eyes full of contempt. "Who are you to dare to come here? Definitely not someone who can work like us." Lena sneered, her tone as sharp as a knife. Emily felt her face burn, but she didn't let shame take over. She smiled, trying to stay calm. "I'm Emily, the new trainee. I'm looking forward to learning and working with people," she said, her tone resolute but not lacking in humility. In her heart, Emily felt a violent wave. She didn't want to be judged just because of her background. Every step in the company is like a challenge, but she is determined not to let criticism falter her. She said to herself, "I'm going to prove that I can do better than them." At the beginning of the job, Emily felt like she was in the middle of a fight. Every day that passes, she has to face suspicious eyes and sarcasm. But in the most difficult moments, the image of her father, Mr. Tan, always appears in her mind as an invisible source of encouragement. She knew that she had to be stronger, not only for herself but also for her family. Emily decided she wouldn't give up. She will prove that she can overcome any barrier, no matter what others think of her. When Emily walked into the office, she felt like she had stepped into a completely different world. The atmosphere of tension and competition was evident on each face. She looked around, feeling the suspicion and prying eyes of her colleagues. They didn't know who she was, but she could feel the unfriendliness from them. When she arrived at the registration counter, Lena, the head of the Human Resources Administration Department, stood there with a cold expression. Lena looked at Emily from top to bottom, her eyes as cold as a knife. "Who are you to dare to come here? Definitely not someone who can work like us." Lena sneered, her tone full of contempt. Emily felt like she had been hit in the face. The confidence she had tried to build in the previous days suddenly vanished. Her face was hot, but she quickly regained her composure. She took a deep breath to dispel the feeling of anxiety that was surging. "I'm Emily, the new trainee. I'm looking forward to learning and working with people," she said, trying to keep a calm and confident tone. In her heart, Emily struggles with conflicting emotions. She felt hurt and angry at Lena's disdain, but she also didn't want to let her weakness show. She said to herself, "I can't let them see me scared. I have to prove that I can do better than them." At the beginning of her job, Emily tries to focus on her task, but the attention of her colleagues always makes her feel insecure. They whispered to each other, their eyes sneaking into her, making her feel like she was being watched. She tried not to pay attention to them, but the gossip and suspicious eyes still annoyed her. Every time she heard a giggle from the desk next to her, her heart tightened. She not only wants to do a good job, but she also wants to be accepted. She is determined not to let criticism hold her back. In the most difficult moments, the image of her father, Mr. Tan, always appears in her mind as an invisible source of encouragement. She knew that she had to be stronger, not only for herself but also for her family. Emily took a deep breath, determined to work hard and prove that she could overcome any barriers. She will not let the skepticism of her colleagues falter her. She will show them that her value lies not only in her father's reputation but also in her own efforts and talents. In her early days at the company, Emily felt like she was lost in a sea of people. Every time I see the prying eyes of my colleagues, feelings of loneliness and anxiety rise in my heart. She tried to work hard, but the bullying from Lena and the gossip made her feel discouraged. She wondered if she could overcome this challenge. However, in the midst of these difficulties, a glimmer of light appeared. Kevin, the head of marketing, took notice of Emily. He is a handsome, confident man and always radiates positive energy. When he sees Emily struggling with a project, Kevin decides to approach her. "Hi, Emily. I'm Kevin. I see you're working very hard," he said with a friendly smile. Emily felt a rush of warmth in her heart. She was not used to this interest and felt encouraged. "Thank you," she replied, trying to keep her tone calm. But inside, she felt a little apprehensive. "I'm just trying to get the job done." Kevin looked at her with sincere eyes. "If you need any help, don't hesitate to ask me. I know that starting here isn't easy, but you have the ability. Believe in yourself." Kevin's words were like a mental medicine for Emily. She felt like she was no longer alone in this fight. She decided to open up more to Kevin, sharing the difficulties she was facing. They began to work together, and with each passing day, Emily felt more confident. Kevin not only helps her with her work, but also becomes a trusted friend. He regularly encouraged her, encouraging her to participate in meetings and give her opinions. "You have a lot of good ideas. Don't be afraid to share them," Kevin said, his eyes full of encouragement. Emily felt that she was slowly finding her place in the company. The times Kevin complimented her, her confidence increased. She began to dare to voice her opinion in meetings, although she still felt nervous. Every afternoon, as they finish work together, Emily feels like she's not only learning, but growing. She realized that the support from Kevin was not only in terms of work but also mental encouragement, helping her overcome psychological barriers. Emily said to herself, "I can't let fear take over. I will not only be the chairman's daughter, but also an excellent intern." With Kevin's support, she feels she can face any challenge ahead. One morning, as Emily was working intently at her desk, the atmosphere in the office suddenly became tense. She heard a whisper from her coworker, and a feeling of anxiety began to creep into her heart. Despite trying to work hard and build her own image, Emily knows that the truth about her identity can be discovered at any time. When Lena entered the office, her gaze immediately turned to Emily. Lena smiled, but that smile didn't have a friendly meaning. "I heard that you are the chairman's daughter. It's so exciting," Lena said, in a sarcastic tone. Those words came as a shock to Emily. She felt her heart stop beating for a moment. Feelings of shame and anger filled my heart. Emily couldn't believe that her secret was exposed so easily. She made an effort to prove herself by her ability, not by her father's reputation. "That's not what I want people to know," she replied, trying to keep her tone calm. But inside, panic was rising. All eyes in the office were on her, making Emily feel like she was on trial. She took a deep breath, trying to keep her spirits up. "I'm Emily, and I'm working here as an intern. My identity doesn't matter," she said, trying to assert herself. But doubt still exists in the eyes of colleagues. They began to whisper to each other, and Emily felt like she was surrounded. She couldn't help but think of what they were saying. She was only admitted here because of her father, or she doesn't deserve this position. Those words were like knives piercing her self-esteem. Kevin, who was always on her side, noticed the change in air. He approached, his eyes full of worry. "Emily, don't let this hold you back. You have the ability, and I believe you will overcome this," he said, in a sincere tone. Emily was warmed by Kevin's support, but her anxiety had not dissipated. She wondered if she could continue to work in this environment when people only saw her through the lens of her family reputation. "I have to be stronger," she told herself, determined not to let criticism bring her down. In the days that followed, although the feeling of being hurt remained, Emily decided not to let it affect her work. She focuses on tasks, trying to prove that she can do better than people think. She not only wants to assert herself, but also wants to prove that her value is not only in the name she bears. Emily knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but she was ready to face any challenge. She will not let her status define her own value. Emily stood in front of the mirror, looking at her reflection. She felt nervous as she prepared for the meeting with her father, Mr. Richard, the chairman of the conglomerate. Although she has grown up and become independent, she still can't help but feel stressed every time she has to face him. Although her father always loved her, the pressure of his reputation made her feel like she was never good enough. When Emily entered the meeting room, she saw her father sitting there, his eyes stern. Mr. Richard has always been a person with high requirements, not only for himself but also for those around him. "Hello," he said, his tone quiet. Emily felt the expectation in his eyes, which added to the pressure in her heart. I'm trying my best to prove myself," Emily began, her voice trembling a little. She didn't want her father to think that she was only relying on his reputation to get to where she is now. "But everyone in the office doesn't seem to trust me. They only saw the chairman's daughter, not an intern." Mr. Richard frowned, anxiety evident on his face. "I know that in this environment, people will always have prejudices. But you have to remember your value does not lie in the title you bear. You have to assert yourself with real ability." Emily felt a part of her heart warm when she heard her father's words of encouragement. But she also couldn't help but feel lonely. "I tried to work hard, but everything seemed to work against me. No one saw my efforts," she confessed. Tears began to flow. Mr. Richard approached, placing his hand on her shoulder. "Daughter, I understand how you feel. My father had experienced the same thing at the beginning of his career. Be persistent and don't give up. Time will prove your worth." The feeling of comfort from her father made Emily feel more secure. She took a deep breath, determined not to let criticism falter her. "I won't let this defeat me. You will prove that you can succeed with your own abilities," she said, her tone stronger. The meeting ended, but her father's words of encouragement still echoed in her mind. Emily left the meeting room feeling refreshed. She knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but with her father's support and her determination, she felt more confident than ever. She will not only be the daughter of the president, but also a strong, confident woman who affirms her worth. After the meeting with her father, Emily felt full of determination. She decided not only to be the chairman's daughter, but to prove herself worthy of the internship position at the company. Every day that passes, she tries her best to show her ability, but the pressure from her colleagues is always there. When assigned an important project, Emily sees this as an opportunity to assert herself. She spends hours researching, analyzing, and planning in detail. In her mind, the image of her father always appears as a source of motivation, reminding her that only effort can help her overcome prejudices. However, when she presented her idea during the meeting, the prying eyes from her colleagues made her feel worried. Lena, with a sarcastic smile, relentlessly insists that she's just relying on her father's name. Those words were like knives piercing her self-esteem. Emily took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. She knew that she had to be stronger. I did my research thoroughly and believed that this idea would benefit the company, she said, in an assertive tone. She felt the support from Kevin, who sat next to her, his eyes full of encouragement. Although she was still a little worried in her heart, Emily decided not to let that get in her way. She presented the idea confidently, each sentence being spoken with clarity and power. She looked directly into everyone's eyes, not allowing herself to be swayed by suspicious eyes. When the meeting ended, some colleagues began to change their attitudes. They began to discuss her idea seriously, and Emily felt a new respect from them. She couldn't help but smile brightly on her lips when she heard the compliments. "You did a great job," Kevin said, his eyes filled with pride. "I know you can do it." The words of encouragement from him were like a spiritual medicine, helping her to be more firm in her determination. Gradually, Emily realized that proving herself is not only about showing others what she is capable of, but also about asserting her own worth. She no longer felt the need to run after the recognition of others. Instead, she finds strength in her own efforts. When she leaves the office, Emily feels proud of herself. She knew that she had embarked on a new journey, a journey not only to assert herself in the eyes of others, but also to find confidence and value within herself. She will keep fighting and never give up on her dream. After months of effort and perseverance, Emily sat in the meeting room, a sense of excitement and pride overflowing in her heart. Today, she will present the results of the project that she has worked hard to prepare. This is not just a regular presentation. It is also a testament to all that she has learned and tried during the past time. When she entered the meeting room, Emily felt the tense atmosphere. Her colleagues were fully focused. Their eyes were full of suspicion but not lack of attention. She took a deep breath, feeling like all the pressure from the past was weighing on her shoulders. "This is my chance to prove myself," she told herself. At the beginning of the presentation, each sentence was conveyed by her with confidence. She not only presented the figures, but also shared the lessons she learned from the working process. Difficult moments, failures, and even small successes are all sincerely mentioned by her. She wants people to understand that success comes not only from talent but also from perseverance and determination. Throughout the presentation, she felt a change in the attitude of her colleagues. They began to nod, their eyes no longer doubting but turning to respect. At the end, Emily received thunderous applause. She felt a positive energy overflowing in her heart, as if all her efforts had paid off. After the meeting, Lena approached. "I have to admit, you did a great job," she said, her tone somewhat more sincere than before. Emily felt a little joy when she heard these words. It is not only recognition from a colleague, but also a testament to her maturity. When she left the office, Emily couldn't help but smile on her face. She knows that she has overcome psychological barriers and proven her worth. She has learned that success does not only come from position or reputation, but also from relentless effort and belief in herself. With a sense of confidence and strength running through her heart, Emily realized that the biggest lesson she learned was not only about work but also about life. She has learned to stand firm in the face of challenges, to accept herself, and to constantly strive to be the best version of herself. This is just the beginning, she thought, her eyes looking far into the future. With a new mindset, Emily is ready to take on the next challenge, not only to prove herself but also to explore the limitless possibilities within.